I didn't expect them to come out with such heavy subject matter right out the gate in episode 1. Hi guys, Geecher64 here, and today we're talking about the Orville Season 3, Episode 1, titled Electric Sheep. And this is actually a pretty solid title, and I'll get into that here in a second, but they've actually titled this season the Orville New Horizons, and I think that retitling it with that title is a good idea, because this kind of comes off as a kind of a soft reboot. We've seen the tonal shift in the Orville from season to season, with the first season being kind of a very heavy in the comedy. And season 2, it kind of backburnered the comedy. It was still kind of there in order to tell some other types of stories. And I think with New Horizons, the comedy's gone at this point. Not that there's not some jokes that I expect that we're gonna get. This specific episode is actually a lot heavier than what I thought it would be. And I've been looking forward to this season of the Orville for years now. It's been forever since we've got new episodes of the Orville. So I was excited for this one. My first video talking about the Orville. So if you do like it, please hit the like button down below and let me know that you like it, and I'll continue reviewing each episode. And part of the thing with the new title of New Horizons is also its move to Hulu. It's no longer airing on Fox. It's a Hulu exclusive. And I think this is great for the series because of the runtime. The runtime airing on TV is 49 minutes, so you telling a story within 49 minutes, it can be done, but there are certain stories that benefit from a longer runtime. And with this going directly to streaming, what I've noticed with this episode, it clocked in at 1 hour and 10 minutes. And next week's episode is also pretty long. It's like 1 hour and 6 minutes or something like that. So you're pushing past an hour, which gives a whole, 15 to 20 minutes of additional runtime to these episodes. And this episode in particular benefits very much from the extended runtimes. For those new, the way I've been doing my reviews of my Star Trek stuff is I kind of walk through the episode, some of the plot points, give my thoughts on it, and do a little recap at the end with a full review. So there are spoilers in this. So I do recommend you go check out the Orville New Horizons if you have not. And the episode opens up with in memory of Norm Macdonald, who of course voiced the character of Yaphet in the Orville. It was I really liked his character. Norm Macdonald obviously passed away last year, and he was one of the best comedians of my time. And he's a very understated type of humor that I haven't really seen any other comedian replicate. So it was nice that they had the in memoriam to open up this episode, because this episode, as I said before, does lean into some heavy subject matter. And the opening scene is just this amazing space battle, and they're fighting the Kaylon. And I wasn't sure if this was like a flashback or what this was, if this was a current fight that they're just busting open the first episode with a fight with a Kaylon, which is obviously an ongoing conflict that I expect we're going to see more of from this season. But as it's unfolding, we see Marcus, and he's running through the corridors, running through the ship as all these explosions and the gravity is throwing him here and there, and ships on the outside are being destroyed with this battle with the Kaylon. And it was really intense. I was like, wow, this is really good, shot really well. I really liked it. So this opening sequence turns out to be a nightmare, as we see Isaac turned into some monster, and Marcus wakes up. So it's not a flashback. It's not a current fight with a Kaylon. It's a nightmare Marcus is having, flashing back to the events of the second season with the Kaylon attack on Earth. So it's cool that we're actually going to see some of those things dealt with, because post Kaylon battle in season 2, a lot of that wasn't necessarily dealt with. They kind of continued on the episodic format, and this episode leans heavily into the ramifications of that Kaylon fight that we saw in season 2, and as we can see from the opening, particularly how it affected Marcus. Then we got our first shot of Isaac, and he's in an astrometrics type of lab. It definitely was reminiscent of 7 of 9's astrometrics lab in Star Trek Voyager. They don't call it an astrometrics lab, but that's kind of what it feels like. They kind of allude to the fact that he spends almost all of his time in there. It's very similar to Seven of Nine. But then again, Isaac is kind of, I always viewed him as kind of an amalgamation of Data and Seven of Nine in regard to the backstory and the way the Kalon kind of are a melding of, androids in the Borg. So it's cool to see kind of that weird nod. It's like, if you know, you know. But Lamar says he's got to do some stuff in the lab, and so Isaac takes a break. He goes to the mess hall, and he wants to sit down with some crew members who are eating, and they're clearly uncomfortable by his presence, and they all get up and leave as soon as he sits down. So you're starting to see the crew are not very comfortable with Isaac being on board due to the Kalon attack. And we're introduced to a new character named Ensign Charlie Burke, who will play an important role in this episode, and I hope that is a character that we continue to see in future episodes. But Ensign Burke comes back to the table to sit down with Isaac, and she starts talking about her pancakes. And, I was looking at her pancakes, and they look pretty anemic. I was like, what's wrong with your pancakes? There's something wrong with your pancakes. And she says that she doesn't use syrup or anything other than just butter. And who uses just butter on their pancakes? They looked anemic. They were pretty terrible looking. I'm glad they explained why the pancakes were terrible. Me asking the real questions, like, why are your pancakes terrible? Yep, that's the kind of content you get here. So Ensign Burke tells Isaac the story of surviving the Kalon attack and how her friend Amanda gave her life to save her because the escape pod was malfunctioning and it only could be launched from the outside, so only one of them could survive, and her friend was killed. So, and she definitely blames Isaac. She lets Isaac have it, and she says it's a shame that he can't feel because he deserves to feel all the pain in the universe. So you can clearly tell Ensign Burke doesn't like Isaac. Isaac goes back to the astrometrics labs. I'm just going to continue to call it that. I think they just called it the lab or something like that. I'm going to continue to call it the astrometrics lab for the purposes of this video. But he shows back up the lab, and someone sprayed murderer, like graffitied murderer on the wall. And with that, we kind of see where this episode is headed. Then we get a new opening title sequence, and I actually prefer this one to the old one. I think this one works a little bit better. Visually, it looks a little bit better. So yeah, I like the new opening sequence. Then we see as the episode opens, post title sequence, that the Orville is in space dock and is getting retrofitted, getting some new parts put in. So Captain Mercer and Commander Grayson end up having a discussion with Isaac and finding out that Isaac has been harassed ever since being brought back online after the Kalon attack, which they were completely unaware of. So yeah, I guess they need to get more in touch with their crew if it's been that long and they didn't realize what was happening. And as I said, we never really saw the ramifications of that Kalon attack and the impact on the crew and how they felt about Isaac post-attack in season 2. So it's cool to see that starting to be addressed here. So Captain Mercer and Commander Grayson have a conversation with Ensign Burke, questioning her if she is the one who graffitied the astrometrics lab, and she says she didn't do it, and the captain, says they need Isaac for the, in case the Kalon attack again. He's important to the crew, and she voices her concerns, and he says that he's not 100% sure if bringing him back online was the best call, but it's the best call for defending against another Kalon attack. And Burke's response to what the captain has to say about the potential of Isaac helping them in case of a Kalon attack is pretty interesting, because she says, yeah, and then we'd have Isaac to thank for it. Will it be worth it? And I think that really showcases how illogical her hatred of Isaac is, and that no matter what good Isaac could do, it doesn't justify him being around. And that's not very logical. You can clearly tell at this point, her dislike of Isaac is next level. So we get some scenes of Lamar and the engineering crew outside, fixing some parts on the outside of the Orville, and you really get a lot of really nice shots of the space station and Earth, and it visually it just looks really nice. And then Lieutenant Malloy brings in a new fighter called the Pterodon. It's very similar to the fighters in Battlestar Galactica, and I think it's really cool that the fact that they're introducing that into the Orville, the fact that they have a fighter now, so I think that's really nice. And the actual visual look of the Pterodon looks pretty cool, like a little mini Orville in the shape of like a fighter jet. Really awesome. And I really hope they utilize the Pterodon in the future. Unfortunately, Pterodon pterodon's not really utilized in this episode. I thought that it would be because of the way that they put in the effort to introduce it here, but I would suspect that we're going to see the pterodon come into play in some episodes in the future in this season. So Malloy lands in the cargo bay and is having a conversation with Burke, who's also impressed by the pterodon, and Malloy voices that he has concerns over Isaac as well, kind of siding with Burke in this argument. And I find that to be kind of interesting because, again, they didn't really delve at all into this in season 2. There was the Malloy-centric episode with the holodeck, or the simulator as they call it in the Orville. And there really wasn't any allusion to the fact that he had any issues with Isaac. It really does feel like this is kind of like a soft reboot in tone to what the Orville was, but it's dealing directly with the main event of the last season. We do get a better look at engineering. You can clearly tell that this specific season has probably had a budget increase. Either that or just the span of time that they had to work on the special effects was a lot more than what they've had previously, because the effects look really nice here. And like I said, we get a better look at engineering. I think it's cool that we see that the core is kind of looks like a beryllium sphere from Galaxy Quest. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if anybody else pointed that out, but that's kind of what I thought when I was watching it. There is a nice scene with the pterodon, and it's being flown by Malloy, and it's just he's fighting 4 drones that are being piloted by Ensign Burke, and it's a really cool sequence, zooming in and around the space station and in around the Orville as Burke operates these 4 drones to kind of test out the pterodon to see how it is. And they mention the fact that Ensign Burke is good at visualizing 4D geometry. And I thought this was pretty interesting line to throw in there when I was watching it. And it actually does come into play later, so that's cool. So Kayla figures out that Marcus is the one who sprayed murderer on in the astrometrics lab. So bringing Marcus back into the story, as his nightmare is what opened up the specific episode. And Dr. Finn takes Isaac to have a conversation with Marcus, and it doesn't go very well. Marcus really does not like Isaac at all. And says he'd be better off dead. And that kind of sets up the whole meat of what this episode is. So Isaac ultimately decides that based on the reception he's getting from the crew, and he's a big distraction, and that they would function better if he wasn't around with his presence absent. So he makes the decision to self-delete. And that's really, again, where the meat of the episode is. It's dealing with that impact on the crew, and specifically with the Finn family, obviously with Marcus again being the opener for the episode. Like I said, I didn't expect them to come out with such heavy subject matter right out the gate in episode 1, but that is the meat of the episode here. And as you see the different crew react to all of this, you really start to see the inability of humans to see things from alternate perspectives, because nobody really puts themselves in Isaac's shoes. Like, none of them really try and understand where Isaac is coming from. He turned against his people to help them, to help humans, and they all hate him. And it's really interesting. It's one of those episodes where when you're watching it, you're just like, this is making me think. And I think that that's what the best parts of Star Trek always were the episodes that made you think, that gave you different ideas and showed things from different perspectives. Captain Mercer gives a really solid eulogy for Isaac, and Ty, who is the younger brother of Marcus, wants to have a conversation with Isaac, so he goes to the simulator. This basically is like the holodeck. It's a simulator to talk with a simulated Isaac, and the doctor talks about the dangers of using the simulator, how it's going to hinder his ability to move on, because Isaac is done. Right at this point, nobody knows how to fix him. He's done. So they need to accept it and move on. And there's a really nice scene where the doctor simulates the restaurant. And I'm pretty sure this is the same restaurant that she had her first date with Isaac at. And, it's just a really solid scene. It's like one solid long shot. And as it zooms in, there's no music playing. There's no sad music to try and elevate or evoke any kind of emotions. It's just one solid long shot, one take of Dr. Finn finally sitting down and dealing with her emotions and breaking down. And you don't really see a whole lot of that kind of thing anymore from TV or film. A lot of times, directors in the editing room, whichever one you want to claim, decide to put in additional emotional music in order to evoke emotions from the audience. And when you remove the music altogether and you just let a scene play out in one take without any crazy camera shots or anything, just the actor reacting to something, it stands out when you see it because you don't see a whole lot of it. So Lamar's with a Tequila woman. Yes, I had to write down this because I'm not very or as familiar with the alien races in the Orville, but this alien race I'd seen before. But yeah, she's a Tequila woman, and she finds a fork and is like, "Why are you stealing dinnerware? What's with this fork?" And Lamar tells the story of how Isaac gave it to him for his birthday because he didn't really understand birthday gifts and what the meaning behind them was. So he just gave him some random thing and he kept it. And I thought that was kind of nice, that he kept it. He's like, hey, this is a good story, and he kept it. And it kind of springboards this conversation that he has with the Tequila woman. I don't think they give her a name, but about the cultural differences between humans and Tequilis. And it's kind of nice just to see conversations between the cultural differences. That's something that TNG in particular did a really good job at, was showing different cultures and the fact that, the different culture, they're going to have different ideas than what humans do in some cases. And whether that's a right or wrong thing, the discussion of it is important because, different cultures have different ways of looking at things. But this conversation does give Lamar an idea for Isaac and the fact that maybe he has a backup in his brain. So he jumps up and takes off, and we get a hectic scene, the aha moment, the light bulb moment for the engineer to solve the issue at hand. And he may be able to bring Isaac back. So honestly, at this point, I was pretty confident that Isaac might have been gone. Like with the whole New Horizons things, it does feel like leaning into the heavier subject matter, leaving into the comedy being gone, introducing the new Ensign Burke. It's realistic to expect that maybe Isaac was actually going to be gone, at least for a few episodes or something. So I was kind of surprised when this happened. And this brings Ensign Charlie Burke back into the story with her 4D visualization of geometry that they mentioned in the pilot fight. And she's the only one who is going to be able to help Isaac. So that sets that up. And she doesn't want to participate. She doesn't want to help him. She's like, oh, no, it's better that he's gone. And I like what Captain Mercer says here. He says, this thing you do where you act like you have some kind of monopoly on grief is starting to wear a little thin. And that's true. I mean, that's how it comes across. It's like, yeah, she went through something horrific, but pretty much most of the crew has as well. Captain Mercer mentions losing people. So yeah, it's like, hey, this is a crew member, Isaac, who needs your help, and you aren't going to help him based on your personal feelings. So I thought the whole conversation that he had with her in this moment was pretty good. Of course, before this can be dealt with any further, a Kalon ship drops out of Quantum right on the Orville and starts opening fire on them. And the Orville takes off, and they end up going towards a planet with a pretty rough atmosphere. I kind of imagine it like if you were flying into Jupiter and flying right into Jupiter's eye, the crazy atmosphere that could destroy the ship. But they can't take the Kalon head on, so they gotta book it out of there as fast as possible. And the Kalon ship doesn't follow them in because, it deduces, hey, well, the Orville's probably not going to survive in there. They're eventually going to have to come out or they're going to get blown up. And Captain Mercer decides to load 26 of their missiles onto a shuttle and launch it out and then blow it up and trick the Kalon into thinking that the Orville blew up. So once the Kalon see that, they take off and the Orville escapes. I honestly didn't expect to see a fight like this in this episode because a lot of it takes place in Space Dock, so I assumed the whole episode was probably going to take place in Space Dock. But hey, prove me wrong. That's what the longer runtime is for. So Lamar was keeping Isaac's consciousness, or what was left of it, in a stasis field. And because of the attack, the field destabilized, and they have to, within the next couple hours, save Isaac, or his consciousness is going to be gone forever. And the captain orders Ensign Burke. Orders, no, not a choice. It's an order. Ensign Burke, go save Isaac. Go work with Lamar and save Isaac. And she refuses. So he has to relieve her of duty. And so Burke is solemnly contemplating her life choices in the mess hall. And Marcus shows up. And Marcus actually asks her to fix Isaac because he feels responsible for Isaac's decision, for what happened to Isaac. It just goes to show, you can say things in the heat of the moment that you don't really mean. And ultimately, due to this conversation with Marcus, Burke does decide to bring Isaac back. So Isaac is brought back, and Isaac thanks Burke for bringing him back. But she says she didn't do it for him. Obviously she did it for Marcus. So I kind of like this character, Ensign Burke. She's pretty interesting. I hope that she sticks around for more episodes. Finn ends up having a conversation with Isaac to ensure that he doesn't try and do anything like that again. And kind of makes him understand the ramifications and the logical problems of his decisions. You got to approach it from a logical perspective. He is a android, and it's a pretty nice conversation. Again, you're tackling some pretty heavy subject matter here in this episode, and one that a lot of us have in some way been touched by, myself included. So I thought that they handled it pretty well. It's just something that I did not expect from episode 1 of the Orville. And ultimately, I think that this episode really benefits from the streaming format in that length extension. With an hour and 10-minute runtime, you're extending out past 20 minutes past what they would have been contained within an opener for if it was still on Fox. And because of that extended runtime, because of that extra 20 minutes, they're able to hit a lot of emotional notes that make it feel natural, doesn't make it feel forced. If you had to cut out a bunch of scenes, I feel like it would remove a lot of the emotional investment, the emotional notes they were aiming for here in this episode. I think with that extended runtime, they're able to pace itself in a way to really show more of the crew, more of the emotions of the crew, different people's perspectives, and the impact that Isaac has on them. And because of that longer runtime, I really started to believe that Isaac was probably gone, at least for this episode. The idea of him maybe being brought back in another episode later on in the season was not out of the question, but I was pretty confident that he was probably going to be gone, at least for a few episodes. And part of that, I don't think you could really achieve that same feat if it's with a 49-minute runtime. And really what I've seen from episode 1 is the Orville is taking its story to the next level, its tone to the next level. It is now a straight sci-fi TV show, and I think it's all the better for it. I hope they don't completely throw out the comedy. I don't think comedy really fits in with the subject matter of this episode anyway, so I'm glad that they really didn't try and shoehorn it in. I do hope some bits of the comedy still remain with the series, but I think that they're going to lean into finding that happy medium between great sci-fi with great writing and a story, without leaning on the comedy to carry it. I think the title is really solid for this episode, with it being called Electric Sheep. I kind of thought it would go in a different direction, in which Isaac more directly dealt with maybe evolving, because for those who are fans of science fiction, the book by Philip K. Dick, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And Philip K. Dick is like one of the best science fiction writers of all time. He's the father of science fiction. A lot of people would say that he's one of the fathers of science fiction. So with it being called Electric Sheep, I thought it more had to do with Isaac, which it does, but it's more about how Isaac, the rest of the crew deals with Isaac. And I thought that the title worked really well, especially with the opening sequence being Marcus's dream and not Isaac's dream. So, it kind of all worked. It was very interesting. It's one of those things where you watch it, and sometimes with the episode titles, I try and contemplate if the actual title is apt for the episode, and I think Electric Sheep was a good title for this episode. I am really looking forward to the direction that this is going. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. This is something I've been looking forward to for quite some time. There's such a huge gap between season 2 and season 3. This is the first time I've ever talked about the Orville on my channel. Matter of fact, I do have a ship that I keep on my desk. It's the Orville. So yeah. Isn't that cool? A lot of you all know that I'm a big Star Trek fan, and that's a big reason why I like the Orville. The Orville has been a a refuge for disillusioned Star Trek fans, and I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm really looking forward to future episodes. I think that this episode definitely threw me off guard. It wasn't the direction I thought they were going to take, but I'm on board. Well, I can't wait to see what they end up doing. And if you guys would like to see more Orville videos, if you want me to continue reviewing each episode, definitely let me know in the comments below. I'm also reviewing Strange New Worlds. There's some other shows and some other videos and a couple video essays I'm working on as well as my physical media stuff. So I guess got a lot of stuff that I'm trying to get done on the channel, and I'm trying to allocate my time to what I think is the most fun to talk about, and also what you guys like to see. So if you guys want to see more Orville stuff, definitely hit the like button down below, and let me know what you guys think about this episode. Did it catch you off guard? Did you like it? What did you guys think about it? I'm definitely interested in your take on the Orville. I love talking the Orville. I love talking about fandoms when we get to just talk about the actual episode, and we just get to talk about the merits of it. It's really nice, and I think with the Orville is kind of built that fan base where we can talk about the merits of each individual episode. So definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you, subscribers. You guys are awesome, and thank you to everybody else who checked out this video. And if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, or don't. I'm not a beggar. I'm Geechu64, and I'll always tell you the truth.